It's a great pleasure to be standing in the Temple Church, situated between London's Fleet Street and the River Thames. The round church, built by the Knights Templar, was consecrated in 1185, and today the church's principal purpose is to serve the inner and middle temple inns of court, as well as welcoming local residents, workers and visitors to its services. Choir and Organ launched its new music series 20 years ago to encourage young composers to write for choirs and for the organ as a solo instrument, and also to inspire our readers to explore new repertoire. We commissioned 4 composers to write a short piece for choir or organ. We interview the composers in the magazine, and the score is placed online for 6 months for free download. The scheme partners with a different group of musicians each year, a university or a cathedral or an independent choir. Previous partners have included St John's College, Cambridge, the BBC Singers, St Paul's Cathedral, the National Youth Choir of Great Britain, Voces 8, the Marian Consort, and last year, the Choir of Trinity College, Cambridge. During 2026, our new music partners are the choirs of the Temple Church and their Director of Music, Thomas Allery. During the year, you can look forward to a new organ piece performed by Charles Andrews and 3 additions to the choral canon. Recordings of each piece will accompany the scores, and the works will receive their world premieres at a concert later in the year. Shortly, we'll meet the first of our composers and hear his choral music. First, here's Tom to tell you more about the choirs of the Temple Church and its music.
Temple Church is a wonderful place to work, and it's steeped in musical history. We know there has been a choir and music on this site since at least the early 14th century. During the 18th century, John Stanley was an organist here. We know that Blow and Purcell both performed here, and John Playford had his music shop just outside this door. During the 20th century, I suppose it's the name George Thorburn Ball which really resonates through these walls. And we're looking forward to celebrating the 100th anniversary of his recording of Mendelssohn's Hear My Prayer with Ernest Luff in 2027. In more recent times, Temple Church commissioned John Tavener in 2003 to write his landmark piece, The Veil of the Temple. But it's not just about history. It's about making this place relevant for the 21st century. And we have a variety of programs and ensembles today. From our choristers, an opportunity for boys and girls aged 7 to 13, our professional vocal ensemble, the Temple Singers, our youth choir for teenage singers, our junior city singers, and postgraduate choral scholarships. We also have a thriving programme of outreach activities to neighbouring London primary schools. It's great to play a part in continuing this wonderful musical history in today's London.
The first of our 2026 composers is Omri Kochavi. Alongside his work as a composer, he also performs regularly as a guitarist. One question that composers often dread being asked is about their musical identity. So, Omri, with apologies, I wonder if you can define your musical language.
So I think the short answer is no, Matthew. I think the long answer is that I tend to think of musical language as a localized issue. I think one of the most important and frankly difficult parts for me when starting a piece is this process of letting it find its language and its world. And I think it's more important to me that each piece is its own little contained sound world than something that connects my pieces all together. I think I kind of trust on my musical experience and taste to make that connection.
Well, your most recent piece, commissioned by the London Sinfonietta, bears the wonderful title Ladies in Bloomers. You describe it as a 45-minute hortimusical drama for mixed chamber ensemble, 4 singers, and onstage community gardeners. Tell us something about that.
So first of all, I ran a few searches for the word hortimusical, and I think it didn't exist before.
So it's unique then?
I think I can claim it. But we went with this description because it sits in slightly a strange place between genres of opera and semi-stage kind of musical theater or an oratorio. So I think we went with that. The London Sinfonietta were looking for something that will challenge the composer that's being commissioned, but also challenge them as an ensemble. And I think we've managed to do that. I think on the ensemble side, it's quite challenging to try and produce an outdoor piece in British summer. It ended up being indoors, but it might happen outdoors as well someday. And I think for me, it was a lot of firsts. I think it was first of all, a very long piece. It was an evening length, 45 minutes piece, which was a new one for me. It was also my first time working with community gardeners, which were doing all sorts of things, including gardening, of course, but also some more musical things. So I think it really opened up a lot of windows for me when thinking about all of this concept of music and gardening, which is very central to my practice right now.
Well, let's turn to your new music work, I A Lot, scored for 8-part choir. You've chosen some beautiful verses in Hebrew from the Song of Songs, as well as words from March of the Women. That was written by Cicely Hamilton and originally set to music by Ethel Smythe. It became the anthem of the women's suffrage movement. Here, the combination of texts alludes to the struggle that women have faced through the ages to make their voice heard. Tell us a little about I A Lot.
Yeah, so most of my choir pieces to date contain more than one text, often more than one language as well. And I think for me, using multiple texts in the same piece allow me to touch upon the same subject from a different angle and a different perspective. In the case of I A Lot, both texts present to us an empowered woman's voice, which both in biblical times and in the suffragette era was very much the minority and stood out against the atmosphere around it. The Hebrew phrase, "Hayoshevet baganim chaverim makshivim lekolech hashmi'ini," translates to "you who sits in the garden," in the Hebrew feminine form. "Friends are listening to your voice, let it be heard." And I A Lot, the title of the piece, is also taken from the Song of Song, when there is a lot of imagery around does, which is what I A Lot means in Hebrew, and deers, both in the feminine and masculine, which also quite interchange in the Song of Songs sometimes. And the suffragette text, I think, is again an era that we all know, and kind of the symbol of the struggle and eventual, partial success, at least, of what they were looking for, of having the right to vote. But I think the reason to remember that both of these stood out in their own eras, because it's easy to kind of remember just the successes, and I think that also speaks to our current era, when this whole issue is very much not fully resolved.
Yes, very definitely. Can you tell us how the piece works musically?
So musically, the relationship between the two texts really sits at the core of the piece. We start with a Hebrew phrase that is set in this mystical, kind of papyrus-like quality. And as we go on, the English text start making an appearance, and it has a much more brazen and down-to-earth texture to it. These two seem very separate when they first interact, but then there's a reinterpretation of the Hebrew phrase in the hockety texture across the choir that then serves as kind of a glue and binds them together. But I think focusing on the relationship and how it changes over the course of the piece is kind of the key to the dynamism of it.
Thanks so much, Omri. Well, now it's time to hear Iolot, performed by the Temple Singers, directed by Thomas Allery. Omri Kochavi, thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew, and thank you to the Temple Singers.
Cry.